Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News for Saturday Night Livestream. Just a quick disclaimer. RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, or opinions of its guests or advertisers. An appearance on this program is not to be construed as an endorsement, and the information contained herein is not to be considered medical or legal advice. As always, we encourage you to do your own research. And in this instance, it is extremely important. Tonight, we are going to be talking with my friend, Nicholas Gerber. We're going to be talking about the unfortunate circumstances of forced organ harvesting. Maybe some people out there aren't even aware that this happens, but unfortunately it does. It's horrible, and there is a whole class of people specifically which are targeted, and probably the biggest global competitor to this country, China. My friend Mitchell is a researcher, a journalist, a documentarian. He's been knee-deep in this very subject for almost 2 decades. Just want to ask everyone, please do me a favor and like and share this broadcast. Help us break through the algorithm. And do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Panic is highly contagious, especially in situations when nothing is known and everything is in flux. Well, the world we live in today is in flux, and it's filled with a flood of information that's often as much gossip as fact. Now, that makes it hard to know what the situation really is, and it also makes it easy for people to panic and make bad decisions. The only way not to get caught up in that chaos is to have a plan allowing you to avoid dealing with empty store shelves, long lines, and in the worst case, desperate people. Use today to prepare. A great place to start is storing food in your home, and I'm prepared myself, and I even ordered more recently. Now, the experts at My Patriot Supply have told me that orders have now reached about 100 times the normal volume, and they're shipping on a first-come, first-served basis. With this unprecedented emergency, orders are being delayed, sometimes 8 weeks or more. I urge you to add your order to mine today, because the sooner you order, the sooner you can get your purchase. Take action so you're ready for what's coming and save $70 on a 2-week emergency food kit when you go to my special website, preparewithredpill78.com. Those that know what's coming are preparing today. Go to preparewithredpill78.com. Once again, that's preparewithredpill78.com. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Please help me in welcoming our guest for this evening, Mitchell Gerber. Mitchell, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Zach. It's a pleasure to be with you, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you here as a guest. Thank you so much again. I appreciate you coming in. So we're going to be talking about forced organ harvesting tonight. Tell us, I said in the introduction, you've been doing this for almost 2 decades. Give the audience an introduction into who you are and how you got involved in this subject, because this is really heavy.
Absolutely. And this is something, it's a new form of evil, folks. This is not some kind of fantasy or kidney in the bathtub story. This is state-mandated, state-sanctioned, and state-endorsed legal kill-to-order live genocide of hundreds and thousands of innocent people sent to state-mandated hospitals, Zach, their organs cut out of their bodies while alive, a little anesthetic that is used to sedate the person so 4 prison guards don't have to hold each person down. All the organs are extracted, cut out of their bodies while alive, so the transplantation is the actual murder. And then their organs are sold for the healthiest organs in the world, illegally, without any consent, forcefully, and the bodies burned to conceal the evidence in the crematories of the ovens of over 800 hospitals, 200 concentration camps, and 36 death camps in China. This is our evidence that has been confirmed by the investigators who I'll get into later. I studied international politics at the University of Georgia. I'm an American citizen, South African born, 20 years in the States. And I gave everything up because one day, one fateful day, I guess, coming up on my 20th anniversary, actually, of my veteran activist work, when I was 21 years old, studying business at the University of Georgia, I came across this very innocent-looking, organic and natural qigong or tai chi or yoga, if you want to call it, practice. And I was blown away by the health efficacy of these exercises that I tried. I've always been into yoga, Zach. I've always tried Tai Chi, and I've always been a huge Bruce Lee fan. I've never been into the spiritual wooey stuff, and I've never been a religious kind of guy. I've always been a guy for health and fitness, martial arts, soccer, football, that kind of jock lifestyle. And when I was studying international business, wanting to open up my investment company, I came across this spiritual practice because I felt anxious, I felt stressed, I was uncertain where my life was going, I was drinking a lot, smoking a lot, and I just wanted something to relieve my stress. So I came across this spiritual movement at a festival that they were holding, this little booth, where I saw these Chinese people practicing, these young children, they're middle-aged, and then elder people practicing these, what looked to me as these slow-moving exercises. And I came to learn that this was a spiritual mind and body practice, a spiritual discipline in the Buddhist tradition, namely Falun Gong, which consists of moral teachings and meditation, these 4 slow-moving exercises standing and the 1 meditation, so 5 in total exercises that are truly unique for health and a highly effective way to improve energy and stress relieving, reducing stress relief and anxiety relief. And I was blown away. And then I realized that this was outlawed in China. So something inside me as a human being ignited my passion to help these people. And people thought at first I was crazy, like, why are you giving up your businesses? Or not giving up, focusing more on these people who had nothing to do with your family, nothing to do with your life, nothing to do with your profits, nothing to do with your happiness, millions of miles away. Because I believe that what is a man who cannot make the world a better place? And to fail to expose what is good, or fail to stand up for what is good, and to fail to expose what is evil is unacceptable. So 20 years ago, to this day, I've been exposing this new form of crime against these innocent group of people, which my body, my mind, my spirit has benefited profusely from these exercises and this philosophy of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance that the Falun Gong practice has incorporated and brought to me in my lifetime in such a beneficial way. And here I am talking to you 20 years later.
So, okay, so you've told us what Falun Gong is. Has there been any studies showing why these exercises are so good for people's health? And I mean, is that the reason that the Chinese government is choosing these people to harvest their organs?
Absolutely. When Falun Gong became the largest spiritual movement, Zach, in China, 1 out of every 10 Chinese national citizens, folks, 100 million people, 10% of the population were practicing. I mean, the numbers grew so quickly between 1992, when it was first introduced by the founder, Mr. Li Hongzhi, to 1998. All walks of life, more than half of upper class society were practicing. The 7 highest ranking Politburo members of the Chinese government were practicing. It outnumbered the Chinese Communist Party's membership by 30 million people.
Wow.
Military generals, soldiers, all walks of life were practicing. You would see hundreds and thousands each and every day, morning, noon, and night, practicing in the parks, in the stadiums, at work. So this, because of the largest popularity and the largest movement in thought in history, in Chinese history, and because of the ideology of Falun Gong, which is truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, stood in stark contrast to the demonic, barbaric, and evil nature of the Chinese Communist Party. The communist regime's leader at that time, the president, was very hateful, that he couldn't control the hearts and the minds of the people any longer. And it was overshadowing. He took it as an overshadowing of his own power, and he outlawed the practice in 1999, and then demonized them as some kind of evil cult backed by the
Clowns in America.
clowns in America, and as you said, and demonized them, slandered them, vilified them in the most horrible way, even staged a self-immolation campaign. Like the communist regime turned Tiananmen Square into a movie set, forced 5 people and a little 12-year-old girl and her mother to set themselves on fire, and blamed Falun Gong as some suicide cult, and broadcasted this on state television news agencies 24/7, demonizing Falun Gong, burning books, destroying cassette tapes, sending hundreds and thousands of innocent people to state-mandated hospitals and re-education centers and concentration camps to kill them for their organs, because the Chinese government were doing research on the DNA, the cell tissue, the psychological and physiological benefits of Falun Gong, and seeing how within 3 or 4 months of practicing and following a more truthful and compassionate and tolerant lifestyle and mindset, all kinds of ailments, injuries, and illnesses were vanishing. Millions of dollars of healthcare costs were being reduced, and suicide rates were going down. People were living longer, feeling better, sleeping better, and the productivity rates in factories, the quality of the products were also increasing, because when you have a happy employee or a happy relationship, you're more successful in business, you're more successful in life. So with Falun Gong, it became the life force of China. Yet this threatened the Chinese Communist Party's leader, and he outlawed it in 1999, and then did the worst thing. Not only outlaw it and demonize it to turn public opinion against it, but created a kind of genocide against it, to kill them for their organs and then sell their organs as the healthiest organs in the world illegally without any consent.
Who is the market for those organs? I mean, are we talking about, people or countries that are allies with China, or are we talking about like the rich and powerful going to China and purchasing these organs? Because I mean, you think of immediately like David Rockefeller. He had 8 or 9 heart transplants. By the time he died, he was almost 100 years old.
Absolutely. The rich, wealthy international patients on a specified date, Zach, would go to China. You had waiting lines and waiting times for hearts and livers 4, 5 years, 7 years out. And the communist regime made it so that you could get a forced organ harvesting liver and kidney and heart and corneas and pancreas within a specified date, a kill-to-order genocide, where you could just pick a lobster out of the tank. And I'd love to share a clip with you before we go any further about what Falun Gong is, just to give a visual of for your listeners what Falun Gong is, and then we can continue. I got some great clips for you folks that Zach is very kind to play. But yeah, start with clip 1 just to show them what Falun Gong is, and we can go into more. It's a great journey, and I have a lot of information to share with you.
No problem. We've got 2 hours. So, all right, let's go check out the first clip.
Falun Dafa, also known as Falun Gong, is an advanced self-cultivation practice that improves mental and physical wellness through physical exercises and the development of one's character. In China, cultivation practices have a history of thousands of years and form the spiritual foundation of Chinese civilization. In 1992, Falun Dafa was introduced to the public by Master Li Hongzhi. The practice quickly spread because of its profound principles and proven health benefits. By 1999, with over 100 million practitioners, Falun Dafa had grown to become the largest practice of its kind in China and around the world. Traditional Chinese medicine focuses on energy channels and believes that the health of the body is related to the health of the mind. Falun Dafa cultivates mind and body simultaneously, improving the body's natural immunity.
So a couple of quick thoughts there, Mitchell. I mean, we're not necessarily talking about a religious movement here. I mean, this is a philosophical and, health-based movement. And it pulls together, apparently, ancient practices from Chinese medicine, and then also some, tenets that I would think any government would be welcome to have their citizens partake in. I mean, you think of productivity. I mean, why wouldn't the Chinese government want that? Why would they not be able to integrate Falun Gong into the Chinese culture and the communist way of life?
That's a great question, Zach. Well, just to answer your first question, yeah, this was just an incredible way, as referred to as many spiritual practices, to cultivate and improve the body. It was an integral part of classical Chinese culture in the early 1990s. I mean, even the Chinese government praised Falun Gong, and it's very similar to, Taoism or Buddhism or Qigong, yoga. And as a Falun Gong student myself, over 10 years of practice, I've understood and gained the understanding that it is not a religion. I come from a Judeo-Christian Christian family. So what attracted me to Falun Gong are the core values of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, where I could achieve more of a state of selflessness, greater insight, awareness, inner purity and balance, deeper workings of what may be called true health. And in the early 1990s, when Mr. Lee introduced this practice, few people became aware about how its popularity in the West affected China. They all wanted to know, but unfortunately the Chinese communist regime demonized Falun Gong at that time and sent out a weaponized propaganda machine worth billions of dollars per year to try to destroy the reputation of Falun Gong, bankrupt them financially, and then destroy them and eliminate them for their organs and sell them for massive amounts of profits. And Falun Gong, when it was introduced, Mr. Lee was the most awarded Qigong master in China. For example, in 1993, the People's Public Security News, the official newspaper of China's military's Minister of Public Security, praised Mr. Lee, the founder of Falun Gong, for his contributions in, and I quote, promoting the traditional crime-fighting virtues of the Chinese people, truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, in safeguarding social order and security, and promoting rectitude in society. And again, by 1999, Chinese officials went so far as to quantify Falun Gong's benefits, such as when one official from the Chinese National Sports Commission, speaking with U.S. News and World Report, declared that Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, can save each person so much money, at least 1,000 yuan in annual medical fees. It's about $200 a month. If 100 million people are practicing, that's about 100 billion yuan. So millions of dollars of healthcare costs per year in medical fees. And the same official went on to note that the premier, which is basically it's the same as the vice president of the United States, Zhu Rongji at that time, is very happy about that. And today, Falun Gong is practiced in over 120 countries. Yet, because of the mass popularity of Falun Gong, it became the largest spiritual movement in all of Chinese culture and all of Chinese history. Because the Chinese communist leader, Jiang Zemin, the evil head of the communist regime at that time, was so jealous, so hateful, that he couldn't control the hearts and the minds of the people like that any longer, and was seeking a way to consolidate his own power. He outwardly banned the practice, launched the entire military, the secret police, the communist economy, at least 1/4 of China's gross domestic profit, on this practice.
Wow.
To eradicate it, destroy it within 3 months, and then did the worst ever. Try to kill them have been killing them for their organs. And I think if you could be so kind, Zach, as to play the second clip, just to give your viewers a little bit of more of a perspective of the genocide that's going on.
Be happy to. All right, let's go ahead and do that.
So the question becomes, how has China become the #2 transplant country in the world?
The place where every other country in the world gets its organs, not available to them. Where are these organs coming from? Every day there are a dozen of people that are executed or killed for organs in China.
This is run by the state. This was murder, and it came from the state.
Yeah, state organs is certainly an accurate title for what happens to organ pillaging in China. It's done by the state, for the state, to the benefit of participants. And the secondary goal in it, if not the primary goal, is to get rid of so-called enemies of the party, the Falun Gong petition. The numbers grew so quickly from 92 to 99, 70 to 100 million by the government's own estimates.
Its values, truth, compassion, and forbearance, were out of sync with those of the Communist Party. So, as you know, Jiang Zemin, the president of the country, head of the party, labeled it a cult and commenced a brutal persecution against its practitioners from mid-1999 to the present day.
Falun Gong values are quite real, and they're quite attractive. They actually represent the whole side of China, which has been completely suppressed for many years. It's a side of China that most Westerners never see.
Official line in terms of repression of Falun Gong of the party is bankrupt them financially, ruin their reputations, destroy them physically, so that the vilification is destroying their reputations, the organ transplants is destroying them physically. There's the physical examinations, the blood testing, the organ examination, which have no other explanation than suitability for a transplant. That they had this endless supply of organs available on demand, and the only limit was capacity. And so what you saw after 2001 was this huge building boom, new beds, new wings, new hospitals, focused on transplants. And so that the volume, when the system's operating at capacity, increased year by year.
So, Mitchell, let me just give a couple of quick thank yous to the audience. Betty Whitford, thank you for joining as a member. Chris Saley, thank you for those 2 super chats. And Lydia Negrila, thank you for that as well. Mitchell, how much do you estimate the organ trafficking business is in China?
Oh, it's huge. Those investigators you saw, David Kilgore, David Mattis, and Ethan Gutman, they estimate that at least $5 to $8 billion a year, a multi-billion-dollar organ harvesting business and genocide. Now, this is a cold genocide, Zach, and what I mean is that basically the cold genocide that is occurring in China, it is a normalization of a genocide that we've never seen before since the Holocaust in Germany so many years ago. And when they came out, they confirmed the allegations of forced organ harvesting in 2006. David Kilgore is a former Secretary of State, Crown Prosecutor to the Canadian Affairs Asian Affairs of the Canadian Parliament. David Mattis is a 35-year international human rights lawyer. You saw those gentlemen just on the clip that I was sharing with you. And Ethan Gutman is a China investigator. They're all nominated for Nobel Peace Prizes. And they all joined together. David Kilgore and David Mattis in 2006 confirmed the allegations of forced organ harvesting and this multi-billion-dollar business, kill-to-order business in China against the Falun Gong and others like the Uyghur Muslims, the House Christians, and the Tibetans. But the largest source of organs coming from the Falun Gong. In 2006, between 2001 and 2006, in their report, Bloody Harvest, which is a book that your viewers can publish if they would like, at endtransplantabuse.org. If you would like to pull it up and show while I'm sharing with you.
Yes, actually, I was just showing their the report just a moment ago, but yeah, so I've got endtransplantabuse.org pulled up, yes. And so this is where people can get their book.
Yes, if you go to you can go to Amazon as well, but if you go to endtransplantabuse.org. And you go to, let me just put it up for you. If you go to investigations and reports, you can read all the reports, the 2016 investigation update. But if you just go down before documentaries, you can click on books, and it will pull up all the books for you. And those are the books. The Slaughter from Ethan Gutman. You can get that from Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com. I'm not sure if you're seeing it.
Oh, yes, yeah. State organs and Bloody Harvest as well. So this is not undocumented. This is something people have been looking into for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it that we don't hear about it? I mean, I know that I saw your documentary like several years ago. I read an article that you did with the Epoch Times at that time, and I've only heard about it just a little bit. And the Epoch Times, I'm aware, is a Chinese news agency, but not run by the CCP. So they're kind of getting the information out that the CCP doesn't want to be released. Why is no one talking about this? People bend the knee to China.
Exactly, they do bend the knee to China, especially with the World Health Organization and the United Nations remaining silent, the governing bodies, because there's too much money involved, Zach. There's too much money. And there's a saying, extinction before loss of profit. Just going back to the investigations, David Kilgoy and David Mattis confirmed 18 pieces of evidence in their book, Bloody Harvest, that between 2001 and 2006, the period of 2001 and 2006, 45 to 65,000 Falun Gong practitioners were harvested and killed for their organs. When Ethan Gutman joined the investigation in 2014 and up until now, they have concluded that between 80 and 100,000 transplantations have occurred each year, harvesting the organs forcefully from the Falun Gong practitioners and others. And because there's so much money involved, people have stayed quiet and remained quiet. And actually only 4 countries in the entire world, which is extremely disappointing. Israel, a lot of people think that Israel, the Israelis have been harvesting. No, incorrect, because the Knesset and the Sanhedrin, the Rabbinic Council, as well as the transplantation president at Mount Shiva Hospital in Tel Aviv, Dr. Jacob Levy, they introduced the transplantation bill of 2008, banning any Israeli citizens from going to China to get a transplant, an organ transplant, because of knowing about the Falun Gong genocide. Now, as well as Taiwan, and recently you see that the World Health Organization has banned Taiwan from entering into it, because at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party's pressure on the World Health Organization. And then you had Spain, and now comes Italy. So only 4 countries. I'm still disappointed that the United States and Canada haven't banned organ tourism. But the medical associations have not spoken up about this. The Transplantation Society has not spoken up about this. There's too much money involved, and there's too much political pressure. And the reason why, also to answer your question, Zach, if you would like to pull up the website, the 9 commentaries on the Communist Party.
Got it.
It's a book that your viewers could really get into. I urge them to watch or read. It's a free publication, talking about how evil communism is, and the Chinese Communist Party, this reign of terror that has controlled China, the Chinese people, the Chinese government, and the Chinese civilization for the last 50 years, has decimated over 5,000 years of Chinese traditional culture, has wiped out more than 100 to 120 million people, more than 2 world wars combined, and now is harvesting their own citizens, and also has covered up and lied about the Chinese Communist Party virus that has not only affected their own people, but now your own family, and caused lockdowns, 401ks to collapse, economies to collapse, people job losses that they've never seen before in their lives. So coming back to why people have not heard about this, in the Chinese, the 9 commentaries, as you're pulling it up in this book, which is free to read and free to watch on YouTube, there's a striking point that is made that using economic interests to pressure Western countries is the main reason why this has been keeping quiet. So the Chinese Communist Party behaves like the mafia by playing the economic card in foreign diplomacy. So whether China's aircraft manufacturing contract is given to France or the United States depends on which country keeps quiet on the Chinese Communist Party human rights issues. So, Zach, many Western businessmen and politicians are driven and controlled by economic profits from China. Speak no evil, see no evil, hear no evil, and even some information technology companies like, the YouTube, the Facebook from North America have supplied specialized products to the CCP, Cisco Systems, Microsoft, Google for blocking the internet. And I know you had a guest the other day, talking about the 5G and the biometrics and the social credit score. I think Mr. Pastor from the AI organization, he broke it down very well on your show. So in order to gain entry to the Chinese market, these internet websites, companies, and a lot of the companies in the West have agreed to censor themselves and filter out information disliked by the CCP. And this is the reason why you haven't heard about this.
So, is there any possibility that Chinese leadership is going to perhaps maybe stop performing these terrible atrocities? I mean, do you know anything about the current Chinese government? I mean, because before this President Xi was in office, I mean, he very easily could have been someone who had practiced Falun Gong. I mean, I would imagine, with a changeover, I mean, or did they just get rid of everybody who practiced this, and now there's nobody left who has an interest?
When the persecution started in 1999, the Chinese regime called Falun Gong the biggest threat to national security since Tiananmen Square 10 years prior.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand how organ harvesting could happen in China, Zach, it is crucial to understand that there's no limit to how far the Chinese Communist Party will go to wipe out something and someone.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese Communist Party has killed over 120 million people. This reign of terror came into power in order to kill. There's a saying from the 9 commentaries on the Communist Party that there have been many empires that have conquered in order to kill. The Chinese Communist Party killed in order to conquer. Excuse me. The Chinese Communist Party conquered in order to kill. Their history of killing was horrendous. So coming back to your question, President Xi has had many chances, just like Hu Jintao, the former president before President Xi, to stop this. He's been given many urges, and still has not continued this persecution. And from the Epoch Times, which is an amazing newspaper, and I used to work with our team in collaboration with the Epoch Times out of New York in Vietnam. I'm in communist Vietnam right now. Just to give your viewers a perspective, I'm not sitting in an American office. I'm behind enemy lines. I'm 100 miles away from the Chinese border. I could have any time a communist official bust down my door. I'm doing this for no money, ladies and gentlemen. No name, no reward. I don't ask for any donations. And because something, like I said in the beginning of the interview, what is a man who cannot make the world a better place?
Mm-hmm.
And the Chinese organ harvesting has ramped up because there was a great article from the Epoch Times on March 3rd that China performs first lung transplant on a CV-19 patient,
mm-hmm.
raising concerns about sources of organs. And this has been going on for years, so this is nothing new. But the Epoch Times was hinting again, like they were hinting about the 20 million cell phone users that were deleted. I don't know if you heard about this story.
Yeah, we cover that here for sure.
Right, where do they all go?
Yeah.
So I mean, we can speculate. I'm not going to confirm, but there has been a large amount of death that has been covered up by the Chinese Communist Party, and who lied about this virus, who lied about the human-to-human transmission, has covered up the organ harvesting genocide, has demonized Falun Gong as some evil cult, has colluded with the World Health Organization, the National Basketball Association, to make them keep quiet about the Hong Kong protesters. I'm sure you've heard about that story.
Yeah.
And so huge cover-ups, huge lies, and unfortunately people are still standing on the wrong side of destiny as President Xi and the Chinese communist regime and their intelligence officers, who at the time supported Falun Gong, were practicing Falun Gong. And like you said, many of the high-ranking officials, as I said before, the 7 highest-ranking officials and their families were reading the Falun Gong books, were practicing the exercises by that time, and were not, and even the vice president, Zhu Rongji at that time, were very happy about Falun Gong benefiting the society as it was, and he actually wrote a letter to Jiang Zemin, the VP, wrote to the president and said, "Look, don't ban Falun Gong. It's producing incredible results, health-wise, economic-wise, social-wise, political-wise. Why ban something that's so good for the population?" And he the president tore up the letter and just unleashed basically a war a declaration of war against Falun Gong. And what's even more serious, if I may add, I know I talk for there's just so much to cover.
It's okay.
So much to cover. But there's one more thing that I think that will be quite shocking to you and your audience, is that the 610 office is an office that was created on June 10th, 1999, 1 month exact before the persecution of Falun Gong completely commenced. That was created by Jiang Zemin's regime, that is still in place under the President Xi's regime, that sits on top of the Communist Party system, controlling all levels of government, political, economic, and social, from all the classes, for one mandated policy and one creation reason only: to destroy Falun Gong and to declare war against Falun Gong and keep Falun Gong as the #1 enemy of the state.
I need to say thank you to Thomas Vega for joining as a member. Mitchell, at the time that they started rounding people up, approximately how many people were put into these camps?
Oh, millions. I mean, millions. If you would like to play another clip, it was about the genocide continuing.
Got it.
And I can share afterwards about the numbers.
All right. And I'd like to know approximately how many people we think are in camps today as well. Here we go.
There are no human rights in China, and the most outrageous example of no human rights in China is killing a peaceful community of Falun Gong practitioners and Uyghurs, who are Muslims, and Tibetan Buddhists, and Christians, house Christians, for their organs, kidneys, livers, and so on, and then selling the organs to wealthy Chinese or foreigners, and the people are killed in the process.
The belief that I have, and I share with David Kilgore, that organ harvesting is widespread in China, and it is restricted almost exclusively to Falun Gong practitioners. The Falun Gong are to the Chinese regime of today what the Jews were to the Nazis during the war. And we should all take note of this and look at China with new eyes.
There's no evidence that Falun Gong is a cult of any sort. There's no evidence of political action to try and bring down the Chinese government. There's no evidence of anything other than a deep desire to be left alone to practice their spiritual beliefs in peace and to not be locked up and murdered.
David and I have met Falun Gong practitioners in probably 50 countries.
Or even more, maybe.
Okay. All walks of life, all ages, all backgrounds, all education. I've found them to be a wonderful group of people.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with any of that. I mean, Falun Gong, first of all, it's not even an organization because it's a set of exercises with a spiritual foundation. Everything's on the internet. You don't pay anything. You don't sign up to anything. You can start whenever you want. You can stop with it whenever you want. You don't even have to tell anybody you're doing it. Their principles are very simple and ethical. And I mean, all of that is true.
Mitchell, I need to just say thank you to Eric Anderson. He said your fellow Afrikaners are facing the same enemy in South Africa. That's something I've been wanting to do a show on for quite some time. I know about the plight of the South African farmers is pretty dire down there. And DP says, we'll definitely be keeping this brave man in our prayers. The subject is a travesty and affront to all human beings. Where we go one, we go all. So any idea, Mitchell, how many people are currently in these camps, and maybe even how many camps there are across China?
David Kilgore mentioned in the coalition to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong. If you'd love to pull that up on endtransplantabuse.org, Zach. If you just go to videos and you can go to the coalition roundtable, it's the first one. There are about over 200 concentration camps. The Laogao system, as it's called, skyrocketed by 1999, and hundreds and thousands of Falun Gong, millions, up to about 1 million in China, have been sent to concentration camps. Now, those are conservative estimates. We don't want to give too outlandish reports because this is such a hard to believe subject. But there's up to 1 to 2 million Uyghur Muslims. I'm not sure if folks can see the coalition roundtable.
I had it up. I pulled it back, but go ahead.
Oh, great. Wonderful. That's the complete series. Those are all the investigators sitting around the table talking about it. And it's a really great, insightful 4-series documentary that targets everything you want to know about the organ harvesting, what Falun Gong is, etc., etc. But we're looking at, I mean, think about it, 100 million people brutally outlawed, targeted for elimination, suppressed, bank accounts frozen, children ripped out of the parents' custodies, businesses closed, sent off to state-mandated hospitals, education centers. There's at least 36 death camps in China, over 200 concentration camps, and over 800 hospitals harvesting Falun Gong practitioners' organs. The World Organization to investigate the persecution, Zach, of Falun Gong researched researched and published medical research papers and journals, as well as numbers publicized on hospital websites in 2014. It estimated that more than 800 hospitals in China and organ transplant facilities had completed about 160,000 kidney transplantations, 36,000 liver transplantations, and 120 cornea transplantations. We've had prison guards that have come out that have witnessed cattle cars packed full with over 5,000 to 7,000 Falun Gong practitioners shipped, hooked to the rails like rotisserie chickens in sealed containers, guarded by the Chinese military and run by the Chinese military to these state-mandated hospitals and concentration camps. And like I said, the investigators targeted the number of beds in the hospitals, the number of wards in the hospitals, the number of hospitals that were increasing and being built, the number of labor camps that were being built. The Laogao system, as I mentioned, is the labor camp system which skyrocketed because of the massive amounts of investments. I mean, just think about this issue, this number. By 2004, and this was when the Laogao system, the labor camp system, skyrocketed. I received the data from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce. That was about 15, 16 years ago, in the heightened purge of Falun Gong practitioners and the brutal persecution of Falun Gong. Before we even knew about the organ harvesting, China saw a total of a $990 billion foreign direct investment in various contracts. $990 billion.
Wow.
And that was not going to the people. That was going straight into the pockets of the Chinese Communist Party. So when you see reports about how the Wall Street bankers and the international bankers and the Rockefellers and the Kishers of the world backing the Chinese Communist Party, these people have made a fortune and have been complicit, making money off the slave trade, because the consumer market has been founded off the institutionalized slavery system of mainland China. The labor camp systems, where all the forced labor to produce all these products made in China. I mean, look at manufacturing base that was sold by the Clintons in the 1990s in the NAFTA agreements, sold basically the entire manufacturing base of America to communist China, created an entire consumer slave market, and every product now you get in China, in America, is made basically in China. So you have a huge forced labor population, mostly Falun Gong practitioners, Uyghur Muslims, Tibetans, and house Christians making all these products. And so, yeah, huge numbers, several million at least.
So I guess the next question is, once all the Falun Gong practitioners are gone, I mean, where are they going to get this forced labor from? Are they just going to start enslaving the rest of their population? Are they forcing the Falun Gong to breed in these concentration camps?
That's a good question. We don't know exactly what will happen next, but yet, like I said, they have an 18 million population of Uyghur Muslims. The Tibetans, I mean, with the Dalai Lama, who's also been considered a terrorist and a terrorist cult leader. He's gone out and been an advocate for human rights with his people for years. You have the house Christians, which have been forced to go underground, and you have 100 million Falun Gong practitioners. So, look, there's no limit to how far the Chinese Communist Party will do to destroy their people. They have killed millions of innocent Chinese girls under the one-child policy, wiped out 100 million people. So there's, they don't care who they use as long as they use them, and because the Falun Gong organs were so healthy and the exercises were so attractive to so many millions of people, and the health benefits just went through the roof. They targeted the Falun Gong and have continued to create a state-wide genocide, a state-sanctioned, state-mandated, and state-endorsed. And that is why I have to stress there's no other country in the world, there's no other regime, no other government that is doing this legally to this amount of people in the world, in the country. And I would love to, if you could play the China Tribunal to the United Nations video that I shared with you. It's not the documentary trailer, it's the China Tribunal where the gentleman's talking to the United Nations. This is confirming even more so that this is going on.
All right, let's take a look.
Mr. Vice President, the Durban Declaration affirms the urgent need to prevent, combat, and eliminate all forms of trafficking in persons, including organ trafficking. China Tribunal, a People's Tribunal chaired by Sir Geoffrey Nice, considered all available evidence and concluded that forced organ harvesting from prisoners of conscience, including the religious and ethnic minorities of Falun Gong and Uyghurs, had been committed for years throughout China on a significant scale, and that it continues today. This involves hundreds of thousands of victims. Acting on independent legal advice, the tribunal concluded that commission of crimes against humanity against Falun Gong and Uyghurs had been proved beyond reasonable doubt, victim for victim, and death for death. Cutting out the hearts and other organs from living, blameless, harmless, peaceable people constitutes one of the worst mass atrocities of this century. Organ transplantation to save life is a scientific and social triumph, but killing the donor is criminal. Government and international bodies must do their duty not only in regard to the possible charge of genocide, but also in regard to crimes against humanity, which the tribunal does not consider to be less heinous. It is the legal obligation of UN member states and the duty of this Council to address this criminal conduct. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
So, Mitchell, this is known, okay? The information is out there. You yourself have been doing this for 17 years. How can people, say my viewers, if they wanted to get involved, they wanted to help raise awareness, I mean, what can they do? What can the average person do? Because it's shocking and it's disturbing.
The most important, Zach, is discernment, folks. It's discernment. We can't bomb the railway lines like they did in Germany at the time. They can't do that. We're not at war. And so the most important is discernment and getting the information out there, getting the information out on more shows. If you know anybody that is listening that would like me on their shows, Zach, if you know anybody in your network, I think awareness is so important. And also, I believe in what Shakespeare said, the pen is more mighty than the sword. Signing a petition at stoporganharvesting.org, if you can pull that up and you can show them the website at stoporganharvesting.org.
Yep.
In the corner on the right hand side, there's a yellow button called Sign a Petition. You can go there and you can sign it. And people say, well, what the heck is that going to do, Mitch? We got to do more than that. Well, right now, without proper international pressure, more international pressure, we really cannot. And we're not, like I said, we're not at war. But signing a petition is like signing a banknote, signing in a power of attorney. You wouldn't do this unless you actually believed in it. Signing a petition is energetically giving your support, pledging your support. I'm not asking for any donations. I'm just asking for a signature that energetically signs your name into the annals of history, where you are standing on the right side of destiny and supporting, stopping this evil and supporting the goodness of Falun Gong, whether you are atheist, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Jewish, it doesn't really matter. So that's what they can do. And especially read the books by Ethan Gutman's The Slaughter. Read the reports at endtransplantabuse.org. Watch the 9 commentaries, the free publication you can read. You can follow me on Twitter, TruthSeeker077. Again, I don't ask for any donations. I seek no reward. I'm an independent investigator. I do practice Falun Gong. But regardless if I do, as a human being, we have a right to stand up for others. And what is important nowadays is that because the Chinese Communist Party has affected us in such a way, Zach, we have no choice but to bring them out to light. These vampiric, wicked gang of scoundrels that have not only caused havoc and destruction and dismay to their own people, but the world now. So that's what I would say that how they can help, how people can help.
Mitchell, somebody in the chat just said that the petition asks for people's phone numbers. Is it possible to sign the petition without giving your phone number?
I believe you can. If you cannot, if you don't want to give your phone number, then you can just go to endtransplantabuse.org, and there is a petition there you can sign, as well as if you would like to pull up, Zach, Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting,
yes.
DAFOH.org. I believe that there is a petition there. So the Doctors Against Forced Organ Harvesting is promoting ethics in medicine. This is a group of doctors that came together to expose even more so the forced organ harvesting in China. So yeah, you can support. I believe there's a petition here.
Okay.
You can make a donation to them as well. But again, the petition is important. Yet again, what's very important is the discernment of what's happening. And I think the petition at endtransplantabuse.org doesn't require a phone number, so that's, I think, the best way to do it. If you don't want to give your phone number, that's no problem. They won't contact you, of course, but
I mean, and you could always just put all zeros or something like that. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, I mean, this isn't revolutionary. I mean, they're asking for it because obviously they want to continue to engage people on this stuff, but you can put in whatever information you want. You'll still be able to put your name to the petition. Darling USA 1 says, please ask him the most effective way we can help. Oh, God bless you, Mr. Gerber. So, what would be the most effective way in your eyes? Is that signing the petition?
Signing petition and reading the information and spreading the information. Also, what you can do if people would like to try the exercises of Falun Gong, they're really beautiful. If people would like to go, they can go to falundafa.org. Zach, if you want to bring it up, www.falundafa.org. The exercises are free of charge. The books are free of charge. If you just go to the website, as you can show people, those who are into yoga, who are very stressed out. This is a time of great stress, great trepidation, great uncertainty. So it builds up a lot of stress and anxiety in the body, and people are looking for an outlet. They don't want to join anything. They don't want to put money to anything. People just want to have something that they can practice in the morning, 8 minutes, blah, 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 and go on with their day. And this is perfect. This is a lovely practice. And as you can see, you can just go to the video and audio, and down at the bottom you can show that. Now, I don't know if you're at the website right now, but the exercises, it's a 54-minute video from Mr. Lee. He teaches the exercises. That particular symbol, I don't know if you've seen the symbol. It looks like the Shrivasta. Don't be afraid and don't be shocked, everybody who do not know what the symbol is. You see the Tai Chi symbols, and you see the Shrivasta, it's called. Hitler stole the symbol and made it into evil. This is actually a very powerful ancient symbol, and if you've traveled in Asia, you'll go to the pagodas in Vietnam, in Thailand, in Cambodia, in Indonesia, and you'll see the symbol of the Shrivasta, the swastika, basically, on the Buddha's hands. It connotes good fortune. Even the Jewish temples and the Hindu temples in 2,500 years ago, the Greeks, the Romans had the sign as symbol. So don't be taken aback by or shocked that, oh my God, this is supporting Hitler and that's a bad symbol. No. Hitler stole it.
It was perverted, yeah.
Perverted, exactly. So here you are. You can learn the exercises again. The information is all out there to see. And the documentary, if you'd like to play the trailer to the documentary, Zach, Hard to Believe documentary trailer, people can also watch it for free. It has been released. It's an 18 award-winning documentary on YouTube, and if you would like to play it,
looks like I've got the full video, but I don't have the trailer. Let me. I'll drop this link so that everybody can check this out. So this is the full Hard to Believe documentary. You can watch it right there on YouTube. I suggest everybody does. Mitchell, what's been the toll on your life since getting involved? I mean, I understand you've had some attempts or at least some threats on your life.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm fighting against the Red Dragon. There's no fronts in my life. I just go straight into the devil's den. That's the kind of man I am. I've been nicknamed Lionheart because
that's awesome.
I just go in, because I like the source. I like the real rough, rugged source. I go to the source, straight to the source. And my first encounter with the Chinese Communist Party was death threats against me in about 2005, and I had to sit down with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I actually sent you my death threat article that they did an article on me. Okay, great. Yeah, that was in 2005, folks. I look much younger than I am now. You know what I
mean? You look about the same. You look about the same.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Falun Gong's working.
Yes, little hair on the chinny chin chin. Yeah. You know, but I got everything. I got all the mojo nice and ripe. Yeah. You know. Anyway, so yeah, that's the death threat I received. I had to sit down with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and then I was my car has been broken into. I've had to report to police. My bank account was interfered with. My computer was hacked into. I'm living right now in communist Vietnam with very little money. Our offices got shut down because the Chinese Communist Party sent their secret agents to try and infiltrate us. And you know, when you live a life of exposing such evil that has its claws in every economy, embedded with massive governing bodies that run the world, basically, they are embedded with the World Health Organization. They've hijacked the United Nations. They've got more oversight and rule over more United Nations special units than any other country in the world. It's extremely hard to survive in terms of business. I'm blacklisted from China. I really can't do business with China, nor I will ever do business with China. I mean, there are other places you can do business, because if you're aligned with that Chinese Communist Party, it's very, very serious, and it's very, very, you are complicit to criminal activity, because your money's going to go to fund these forced labor, organ harvesting, death camps, specifically the multinationals. Mm-hmm. People who get their products from China, no, I mean, the mom and pop stores, and they're going to do what they're going to do, I understand. But I'm talking about the massive hedge fund managers, Wall Street guys, corporate think tanks, Rockefellers. People have made a fortune off the slave labor, like Walmart and Nike and Foxconn, mm-hmm. Google, Microsoft. These kind of guys are criminally complicit. The World Health Organization criminally complicit with the communist regime, governing bodies, dictatorships around the world, especially in Africa, for the petroleum oil in Darfur, with the Darfur genocide, which you had a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. You've had, Mugabe. Now you have the South African government, where I was born, as you said, that are killing white farmers and are really causing a lot of havoc in South Africa with the radical communist ANC. So yeah, it's very, very serious. It's very bad what's going on. But yeah.
Well, I think that my audience is well informed about the global threat that China presents, and anything you can do as a consumer to boycott Chinese products, like you said, it's difficult to do it for some things. I mean, our electronics, by and large, they're going to be made in China. President Trump is doing an incredible job right now trying to move that manufacturing base back here to the United States. I really hope that President Trump is aware of this situation right here. I mean, have you ever tried to contact people in the U.S. government?
Absolutely. The Justice Department, the State Department, the House of Representatives have passed unanimous resolutions year in and year out for the last at least 15, 16 years, urging the Chinese Communist Party to stop this. I take my hat off to President Trump for halting funds to the World Health Organization, mm-hmm. And he knows full well. And actually, when he had a couple of, in the White House, he was sitting at his desk, and there were a lot of religious leaders around him, and there was a Chinese Falun Gong practitioner. Unfortunately, she could not speak too much English, and she was nervous. She couldn't get it out, but it was on camera that she actually shook his hand and said, "Please, President Trump, do something about the Falun Gong." You have Peter Navarro, who is the assistant to the president, who mm-hmm. knows full well. He's written books about communist China. You've had Steve Bannon, who is very much in tune with the president of the United States. He has come on his show, Voices of America, on the pandemic, on the War Room, exposing this. Alex Jones and InfoWars, who I went on recently the other day, they know full on about it. So more and more people are coming on and speaking and understanding, but yet there's so much money involved that there hasn't been a huge shift in exposing this. And I think this is the next wave that's going to happen, because the communist regime is now intensely being focused on. They're out in the open. The biggest fear that the Chinese Communist Party has is exposure. They're it's a vampiric demonic spectre.
Mm-hmm.
It's an imposter, and they've always been in the dark, and they like staying in the dark. But now they are being forced to come out and confront this, and they've been covering it up, especially where the origin of the CCP virus is originating from.
Mm-hmm.
So President Trump, I hope, does more to expose this.
I mean, this is probably one of the most important issues of the modern day. There are people who are hung up on things that have taken place in the past, but then they refuse to look at a modern day genocide, which this truly is. It's extremely disturbing, as I said. I just want to let everybody know we're going to be moving on to the call-in portion of the show. I've gone ahead and dropped the link to join us on the Zoom call. I'm going to be dropping the meeting ID and the password, the phone numbers, which you can see on the screen in the lower right-hand corner. If you want to call in, just remember to use *67 so that your phone number will be blocked out if you don't want it to show on the screen, because it will. I can't stop that. 27 Sparkle, thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you to everybody who dropped a little bit into the super chats. We've got a couple of callers on here. Sweeta is on the line. She's going to be coming up next. Let's see. Mitchell, how many are there still active investigations taking place on this? I mean, do we have anyone from China who's actually gotten information out, or is everything that's been done, up until this point, it's just these investigations from the past?
I actually have a little bit of a podcast that I do. A lovely producer.
Hello?
Hi, sweetie. 1 second. Go ahead. Keep going.
I have a little bit of a podcast tomorrow that I do every Sunday, just free of charge for an hour, and I piggyback off someone's show because he was so moved by what I was saying. So he said, would you like a segment that you can share more and get the investigators on? So I'm having a Chinese surgeon, Dr. Enver Totti, the first Chinese surgeon who actually shared testimony with me in London, and the investigators when I brought them to London, to Westminster Abbey. And Dr. Enver Totti did a forced organ harvesting on a prisoner of conscience since 1995. And he was a doctor that came out. He goes around the world. I would love him to be on your show. He would come on and share. That's part of his acumen, because he's so grieved by what he does. And he actually shared in the documentary of Hard to Believe. There's a big segment on him about the doctor, that he now is a bus driver. He was an up-and-coming surgeon, and he shared about this. And then again, 52 pieces of evidence confirmed that this is going on, Zach. So there's absolutely no doubt. But I would love you to have Dr. Enver Totti on your show. I can give you his personal details, and you can contact him.
Yeah, please. I would love that. All right, let's go to our first caller. Sweeta, are you there?
Yeah. Hi, Redfield. I'd call a big fan of your show.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you back.
Yeah, I called yesterday. The call, I think, wasn't that clear yesterday.
It's okay. I remember. I remember you. Yeah, definitely.
The person I wanted you to interview was Eric Karlstrom.
Yes, Eric Karlstrom. Somebody else actually got a hold of me after the show and gave me his information, so I'm going to be reaching out to him.
That's great. There's also a playlist in my YouTube channel that I've named the playlist as Interview Them Red Pill.
Okay.
So there are 4 videos in that. Do look into those videos, and if you find people interesting in those videos, do interview them.
Okay, definitely. Did you have a question for Mitchell?
I just wanted the website where I could watch Falun Gong videos. Wherein person could start practicing by themselves.
Yeah. Mitchell, where should she go if she wanted to start looking into this and becoming a Falun Gong practitioner?
Sure, sweetheart. It's you can go to www.falundafa.org. FALUNDAFA.org. All the videos are there. And also you can look more into Falun Gong at www.faluninfo.net. Those 2 websites will set you nice and straight. But all the exercises are free of charge. The books are there. You can download them. And yeah, it's a wonderful practice. I'm glad that you mentioned that and asked for that.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Sweeta, thank you very much for your call.
And for updates about, would be following you for updates on, and following your work to know what's happening with the organ harvesting. It's great work that you're doing.
Thank you, sweetheart. God bless you. Thank you for helping. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sweeta. Have a wonderful night.
Yeah, you too.
Appreciate it. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Joe Littleford says, not allowing site to sign petition. Where we go one, we go all. Aussie. Maybe it's being blocked in Australia for some reason. I mean, I know there actually is some troubling connections between Australia and the Chinese government. I had actually seen a documentary showing that the Chinese CCP were attempting to infiltrate the Australian government and had put a couple of candidates up in their equivalent of Congress. Do you know anything about that?
I do. I also know about the Chinese associations around the world that have been infiltrating the student organizations and the universities throughout the world, as well as the Confucius Institutes, which are mouthpieces to the Chinese Communist Party. The media has been infiltrated, the governing bodies have been infiltrated, the World Health Organization, like I said, even the Vatican. There has been stories about the communist regime in bed with them in terms of the organ harvesting seminars. Why are the Vatican inviting the Chinese Communist Party officials to do organ harvesting seminars?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's very insane. The petition, I think, is only a US based. Forgive me for that. For the man in Australia. So that's why I say endtransplantabuse.org are where I think the international petitions are.
Okay.
I think the Stop Organ Harvesting is only US based, but endtransplantabuse.org is where the international petitions are.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, Red Pills Warhawk, what's up, buddy? Glad you're here. He says, bro. Gino says, hi, RP and Mitchell. Has there been any Chinese medical professionals that have defected or blown the whistle on this evil practice? And Alyssa Barrick, thank you for joining as a member. Any Chinese doctors or surgeons that maybe felt bad about what they were doing and left and wanted to talk about it?
Yes, there's actually two. One, Dr. Enver Totti, who I will have on the podcast tomorrow. Yes, Dr. Enver Totti, Enver. His last name is Tohti. If you just look up him on Facebook, on YouTube, you'll see his videos. And there's also a doctor, I'm not sure his name, but it's called, the documentary is Harvested Alive. It's a really good documentary, Harvested Alive, and it talks about his 10 years of investigations about this. Also, if you go to stoporganharvesting.org, Zach, and you look into just basically the first page, you'll see the Vimeo documentary, Medical Genocide, Hidden Mass Murder in China's Organ Transplant Industry. People can watch that. It's about 21 minutes, I believe. Okay. And it gives into what's going on. But I don't know how many clips you have left that we haven't played.
I don't know myself. Let me see. Okay. Well, it doesn't show me. I just got them all pulled up. I think we went through 4, or we went up to China Genocide. I think the last one we have the Hard to Believe, and then Anastasia.
Can you play Hard to Believe?
Sure. Let me get that pulled up.
Just to share with people.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, and then when we come back, we've got a call from Pat Sherbin.
By 2000, Falun Gong practitioners were disappearing into labor camps in mass numbers. At the same time, Chinese hospitals began promoting their organ transplant expertise.
I'm David Matus, and with me is David Kilgore. We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. David Kilgore is a former member of Parliament and former cabinet minister for Asia Pacific, and I'm a Winnipeg lawyer doing immigration, refugee, and international human rights law in Winnipeg. And we have now done our investigation, and we're producing this report.
And I didn't know whether it was true or not, and so my task initially was to try to figure out a way of approaching the issue so that I could either prove it or disprove it and not just walk away and say, I don't know.
The number of executions in China varied widely depending on who was counting. But Matus says no matter which number he used, the number of executions and the number of organs didn't add up.
The transplant volumes increased substantially after the persecution of Falun Gong began. And I mean, there's a lot of other evidence, but the most likely explanation for the increase is the Falun Gong. We pursued every investigative trail we could find. In the report, you will see that there are 18 different avenues of proof and disproof we considered and evaluated. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true. We believe them to be true, that this harvesting is indeed happening.
Matus says what made Falun Gong organs especially attractive was the practitioner's healthy lifestyle. They do not drink or smoke. On many of the recordings of phone calls made to more than 100 Chinese hospitals, doctors assure callers that transplant organs are from healthy Falun Gong practitioners.
都是那种健康的法轮功是吧？健康的法轮功。对，肯定是学的好的才能做完，因为这种东西做了要保证质量的。那是都要像你们都要做监狱去自己去挑选是吧？对，肯定。
Okay, so this is where I wanted to. This is where the juice is. Okay, so the World Organization to Investigate the Persecution of Falun Gong, from October 19 to December 2nd, 2018, conducted a series of phone investigations on some key hospitals and their presidents or directors, which have been involved in the Chinese Communist Party's live organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners. So the investigation indicates these hospitals and doctors that have been listed, and as you just heard in that piece of clip, have not stopped the organ harvesting and are continuing from living Falun Gong practitioners. The investigative confirmation hearings on these telephone calls reveal that the Chinese Communist Party is still conducting live organ harvesting from Falun Gong practitioners. And in response to the question, are you still using organs from Falun Gong practitioners, 10 investigative individuals from 9 hospitals gave affirmative answers, including that one that you just saw. Yes, right, correct. Let's discuss after you come. And the 17 telephone investigations published in this report involved 12 hospitals in major cities of 11 provinces and central government direct control municipalities, including Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and others, okay, throughout the north and the south of the entire Chinese region. The individuals the report concluded that are all presidents or directors of top-level organ transplant hospitals in China. Many are responsible for state-level projects in the field of organ transplantation, as well as national and provincial level technical experts. And some are even in charge of organizations dedicated to persecute Falun Gong. For example, the former president of the first affiliated hospital of the University College of Medicine, the current president of one of the hospitals, and the former chairman of the Chinese Conference of Organ Transplantation, as well as the vice president and vice premier of the Minister of Health to the Chinese Communist Party, Wang Jiefu, who sits on the board of the World Health Organization. So the infiltration of spies, the spy network, the intricate officials that are sitting on all of the boards of trustees, of massive corporations, of massive organizations, associations, media companies, technical giant companies, okay, are all complicit in hiding what's going on. So these hospital presidents and directors are all heavyweight figures. And this could be read at upholdjustice.org. And I thought this was quite striking as well. There was an interview by a reporter of the Vision Times in 2015, which I brought up, about Ethan Gutmann, the Nobel Peace Prize nominee of the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize. He's one of the investigators, and he wrote the book The Slaughter. What was your reaction when you heard of the reports of organ harvesting? Skeptical. I'm always skeptical when I'm on the threshold of a new investigation. So what changed your mind, the reporter asked him. The Kilgore-Mattis report. That's the David Kilgore and David Mattis report. But he also continued to say, Zach, that the phone calls to answer more of your question, into Chinese hospitals by Falun Gong investigators. But there is no substitute for personally cross-examining witnesses. One of my first subjects was a peasant woman, a Falun Gong practitioner, who had done serious time in a labor camp. Along with detailed accounts of torture, she briefly mentioned a physical exam. Yet under intense questioning, the exam sounded like it was administered in a hospital turned upside down. The only possible medical rationale was to assess whether she could be exploited for her kidneys, her liver, her corneas, and perhaps her heart, the retail organs. Meanwhile, the woman was becoming increasingly annoyed with me. I mean, she had been tortured, for God's sake. Her beliefs had been jeered and mocked, her family ruined. Why was this stupid white guy so interested in blood tests? She did not recognize the physical examination as having any importance. Of course, to me, this was investigative catnip. So, just to show you how intricate and detailed these investigators have gone.
I'm absolutely shocked that they would essentially advertise the fact that they're using these people. I mean, it doesn't appear to be any real, attempt to cover it up. I need to say thank you to Cynthia Roberts. She says, Mitchell, thank you so much for your vital humanitarian work. And Brett Bunnell wants to know, Mitchell, what you think of Robert David Steele. Let's talk about that after we speak with our next caller. Caller, can we get your name for the audience?
Yes, my name is Brian D. Hill.
Brian, thank you for calling. What's your question for Mitchell?
What are we going to do about the fact that the communists like to basically frame or demonize anyone who peacefully opposes them?
Mitchell, any ideas on that?
That's a great question, Brian. Yeah, we have to expose them even further. This is a wicked gangster scoundrel regime that has got away with murder and has been complicitly covering up these evil deeds and pressuring and bribing and bullying world leaders to stay quiet and stay silent. And I just really hope that Trump has the balls and the backbone, as I think he does, and other leaders to stand up and say, you know what, you ain't going to bully us no more, communist regime, because you are on your last legs. Your elites are running for cover. Millions and millions of dollars are exiting the country right now because their big billionaires are fleeing the country with their children. The communist regime is on its last leg, and we need to stand up. And that's why, Brian, we have to stand up to this evil regime and say no and boycott these gangs of scoundrels. And what is happening within China is a movement called the Tradin Movement. Now, the Tradin Movement, over 350 million Chinese people have revolted against the Chinese Communist Party and their affiliations. So there's a huge movement that is spurring in China to take over once the communist regime collapses, and it's on its last leg.
Brian, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. All right, so the Super Chat had asked about Robert David Steele. Robert David Steele, maybe a little controversial in some respects, but he's involved with the international, the INTJ, International Tribunal of Natural Justice, and I believe that you participated in that, talking about this subject.
Yes, he is part of the International Tribunal of Natural Justice. It's a child trafficking court that exposes the elite pedophile rings and child trafficking, headed by a good friend of mine, Sasha Stone. And I was in Bali, and I met through a contact of mine, Sasha Stone. I became affiliated with them, and he asked me very politely to come to London with the investigators to do a briefing before he brought on Roland Bernard, who is a huge elite banker, one of the largest elitists and he came out with his story.
Yes,
the MK Ultra victims, etc., etc. And Robert David Steele was there. Now, he's been on many broadcasts as well. He was part of the intelligence agency in the United States, and he actually wrote my bio that I sent to you. He was such a helping hand, and he's good friends with Liz Crokin as well, who I haven't been on show with. And that's why I say, Zach, if you know anybody in the industry and any of your friends who do podcasts, I would love to come on their shows.
Yeah, I've got quite a few people I can definitely help you get in touch with.
Please, I was on David Icke's son's show the other day, and David Icke is blowing up right now.
Right.
And he's about to go on London Real with Brian Rose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I would love to get on his show. He was just having a big interview with Alex Jones the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he's introducing the digital freedom platform, which is phenomenal as well.
Oh, I heard about it. He's raised almost $400,000 last time I checked into that.
Exactly, for the blockchain technology, etc. So I'll take my hat off to him. Now, as far as Robert David Steele, yeah, he was there at the briefing, and he was one of the chief justices there at the briefing at the court, and I was very grateful and honored to be speaking there to all the reporters in Westminster Abbey. It was quite an accomplishment with the investigators, and I have the link to that in the description I sent to you.
Okay, yeah, so it should be in there. Social distancing observer says, I'm not sure it's just organs they are harvesting, hashtag adrenochrome. There's probably quite a bit of different products they are harvesting from these bodies there and from these people. I know, I mean, from the posts that we've talked about for the last 3 years, I mean, China clearly is the seat of evil in terms of this this global revolution that we're taking part in. So you can only imagine absolutely, you know, how many nefarious things they're involved in, and people like Dianne Feinstein, you know, how deeply they are involved with this. I mean, it seems to me that China is the real danger when we're talking about, you know, I mean, who are you know, the people that we need to worry about on a global scale. The people, the Democrats want to keep us focused on Russia, but then at the same time, they're allowing China to do all of these, you know, nasty things all across the globe, and they're not getting called out for it. So this is extremely important work that that you're doing, Mitchell. We're going to be having another caller come in right now. His name is Jason. Don't know what he is, or excuse me, where his microphone is. It's not quite hooked up yet. Just want to say thank you to everybody who's here. We've got over 3,400 people watching, 1.8 thousand likes. If anybody who is here and has not chosen to like the program yet, please, if you would, it would really, really help us out, help us break through the algorithm. Also, you can share this on your favorite social media platform. Mitchell, do you have anything going on right now?
Hey.
You know, that's Jason, how are you?
Whoa, what's going on?
Not too much, brother.
Gotta mute my thing.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll just stop it.
Jason, how are you?
All right, there it is.
Okay,
cool.
Excellent.
I totally came into the show like super late, so I have no idea what you guys are even talking about, really.
We're talking about the phenomenon of forced organ harvesting in China. The Chinese government, the CCP, has rounded up millions of dissidents, Falun Gong practitioners, Christians, Uyghur Muslims, and there is an incredible multi-billion-dollar industry there right now. And there's a lot of evil things going on. So Nicholas Gerber is my guest. That's who you're here with. He's got quite a few titles to his name in the description of the video. There's some books you can look into. There are some websites with free information. There are documentaries, one specifically medical genocide. I'm going to go ahead and drop that link into the chat right now. That's stoporganharvesting.org.
So here's our question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Because I don't want you to run through the whole thing that everyone's been watching. But so, because I know about this a little bit, the organ harvesting, the Falun Gong practitioners and all that. But what's going on with these international organizations that should be clamping down on these kinds of injustices, you know?
Yeah.
Are they doing nothing? I know, you know, a lot of these, you know, the UN and all these different international globalist groups are really the problem. But I mean, are they just ignoring it, pretending it's not happening, or how's that going?
Yeah, Mitchell, we had touched on this a little bit before. China has infiltrated not only the World Health Organization, but also the United Nations. I believe they were just given a seat on the Human Rights Council, which is absolutely fascinating to me. Probably one of the greatest abusers of human rights on the face of the earth. But yeah, what's going on with that, Mitchell?
It's unbelievable. Jason, a great question. Tedros, our Teddy boy, what a beauty. He's a beauty, he's a beauty. He's the perfect puppet for China. I mean, he comes out and talks about praising China and everything's great in China. And I think that you saw President Trump in one of his briefings that there was a statistical measurement of the number of deaths compared to each country, and America and Iran and Italy were on the top of the list, and China was right in the bottom, the lowest number of deaths. And I thought to myself, are they actually going to put up this graph? I mean, this is ridiculous. And the situation is that basically the reason why the international community, and I've had a big problem with this, has not done anything is because there's a saying, extinction over loss of profit. People will take money and power and fame and fortune and glory over the very life that we live. And Tedros was, as I said, the perfect puppet because he was the head of the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front in Addis Ababa, who was already a patsy for the CCP. And in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where the Secretary General of the World Health Organization, who currently now heads the World Health Organization, he came from Addis Ababa, and Addis Ababa is known as the city that China built. The Chinese Communist Party funded the construction of everything from the metro system to highways to skyscrapers throughout the city, as well as the $200 million headquarters of the African Union. And once ushered in as a Director General, Tedros quickly repaid China's support. The first day after he was elected, basically, he expressed support for the Chinese Communist Party's claim over Taiwan. And, China has even boasted that about the almost takeover of the World Health Organization. In 2017 alone, it signed an agreement with the World Health Organization, which I call the Communist Health Organization, for its One Belt, One Road initiative. And also the assistant to the president, Peter Navarro, who wrote a really good book, I forgot his book's title, but he shared that the CCP has a broad strategy to control and gain control over the 15 specialized agencies of the United Nations. And unfortunately, the communist regime heads the United Nations and already leads 4 of the UN specialized agencies, while no other country leads more than 1. And a couple of weeks ago, thank goodness, the Chinese Communist Party lost a bid to head the World Intellectual Property Organization. So think about it, a reign of terror that's wiped out more than 120 million people, decimated 5,000 years of Chinese culture, covering up and lying about a virus that they initiated and unleashed on the world that has caused death and destruction, job loss, 401ks collapsing, global resetting, riots, food shortages all over the world. God knows what's going to happen now on a second wave that's coming, where they've already now locked down 20 million extra people in Harbin and Beijing provinces and districts in China, and is harvesting hundreds and thousands of innocent people in state-mandated hospitals and death camps. Now they're in charge of the Human Rights Council and just lost a bid to the International Property Organization and rule over four specialized agencies of the United Nations and have in bed with them the World Health Organization. Tell me what's wrong with this picture, Zach and ladies and gentlemen. Is this the world we live in?
Well, I think a big problem is, well, obviously they couldn't get away with this if we had a halfway honest press.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Exactly.
And I mean, God knows how many of journalists and things that China owns. So
yeah,
perfect. Thank you very much,
Jason. Thanks for your call, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah, long time follower, Red Pill. Thank you.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you watching.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you. All right. And somebody in the chat said something like, I don't give the chat enough credit, something like that. I just want to let you guys know it is not that easy to stay engaged with your guest, keep track of all of your questions, and also watch the chat, plus taking care of all of the behind-the-scenes stuff here on the program. So all I can hope for, the best I can hope for, is that I'm doing a good job and I'm bringing you the information in an engaging fashion and that I don't screw up too often, because I'll tell you what, it happens more often than I would like. But Chris Hawkins is going to be our next guest. I need to say thank you to Rook Castle. Appreciate that. Bigfoot Anon says, stay strong, trust the plan. See you on the other side. Where we go one, we go all. Hopefully, I'm thinking that this very subject is going to get a lot more attention. People are going to start paying attention to it. People are going to call out China for the horrific crimes that they're perpetrating on people all across the globe. Who else knows? What other peoples are being brought in and harvested there? I mean, human trafficking is a huge problem throughout the globe. Oftentimes people wonder, where do these people go? We've got people who disappear on a daily basis. Who's to say that they aren't being taken to China and harvested there, along with all of these Falun Gong practitioners? We're waiting on Chris Hawkins. Red Pills Warhawk says, the push for open borders, free medical care, illegal immigrants, and they're doing this here as well. People with low levels of melatonin are not crossing illegally. Just sounds weird to me, bro. They have, all kinds of people that are crossing borders illegally, and it doesn't seem like people are too interested in getting into China illegally. I mean, people are trying to get out of China, but certainly it seems very possible to me that people could be brought to China and then harvested once they're there. Chris, what's going on, Chris? Chris, you're on the air, buddy. Chris, are you there? Chris, I saw you in the super chat. You said, "What up, RP? You do a magnificent job, hands down." Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. What's your question, man? Thanks for calling in.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Question. How is there a time frame on what we know how long this has been going on?
Yeah, Mitchell, do you think it all started in 1999 with this crackdown, or was this practice, already in place before they just decided to really bulk it up?
Great question, Chris. Thanks for sharing and being with us. In 2006, David Kilgore and David Mattis, the investigators out of Canada, confirmed 18 pieces of evidence that over between 45 and 65,000 innocent Falun Gong practitioners were harvested for their organs. And this was increased to 52 pieces of evidence with Ethan Gutman joining the coalition and joining the forces in about 2014 in their books. The persecution of Falun Gong started on July 20th, 1999, and the communist regime launched a radical, demonic, final solution type of campaign that happened to the Jews in Nazi Germany to destroy Falun Gong. I mean, I don't think people really realize that the war and the extent that the communist regime has launched against Falun Gong. It became the #1 enemy of the state, and actually it sits still right on top of the Chinese Communist Party's hit list. Our organizations in Vietnam, okay, our media agencies, they were fronted as media agencies, basically human rights organizations, have also been sitting on top of the Communist Party's hit list in Vietnam. That's why we had to shut down our offices, and our lives were in jeopardy, particularly the Vietnamese. My life, listen, man, I love it when the communists come after me because, you know what, I'm a fighter, okay? I eat these icons for breakfast. Believe me, I'm a warrior, I'm solid, I'm strong. But I will never give up. And it actually I'm the kind of guy who goes in and rescues people. That's the kind of man I am. But anyway, it's not about me. So to answer more of your question, yeah, this really ramped up. The Laogao system, as I said before in the interview, the labor camp system, the hospital beds, the hospital wards, the hospital buildings were just increasing exponentially. I mean, the organ tourism rate between 30 to 40% was skyrocketing in the United States, in South Korea, in Pakistan, in Canada alone. Because when you had a kill-to-order legal business orchestrated by the highest ranking officials of the communist regime, state-sanctioned, state-endorsed, and state-mandated, Chris, for the last 20 years, making a multi-billion-dollar organ harvesting business. This is something that no other government legally has done in the past, in the present, or in the future. So yeah, this is it started between 2001 and 2006 when we learned about this in 2006. I got on the front lines as a activist and then joined the ranks of Falun Gong and became a practitioner myself because I fell in love with the exercises and the philosophy of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance in 2001. But I didn't realize what was going on in terms of the organ harvesting until about 2006, when the confirmed allegations were confirmed into evidence by David Kilgore and David Mattis. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. Yes, thank you. Wow, wow.
It's mind blowing, Chris. You know, I mean, it's not easy when you start learning about this stuff. I mean, those who know cannot sleep. I have to think that everything that we're being taught by our favorite Anon, every direction we're being pointed. I mean, China has been the focal point of it, and this has got to be a major part of it.
You know, when I watch the videos of them practicing Falun Gong and I see the beauty of it, I can't help but feel the Holy Spirit working there. And you know,
yes.
You know, this is huge. We all need to be on board on fighting this, and I give you praises for fighting so hard for that, man. That is, man, what a calling, what a warrior you are.
Thanks, Chris, man. I bless you for saying it, man, because it is hard. It's so hard, man. It's so hard. It's like, you know, you get no support. I gave everything up. And I said every day in bed, you don't know how hard the mission is. I mean, and thank you for recognizing it. It's like you touch my heart when you say that. And I'm grateful to be on Zach's program, and everybody who's watching and taking a little piece out of their daily schedule to watch this. And you know, I leave no name. It's not for my ego, it's not for my glory. It's just that I just thought that I could do something as a simple warrior, as a simple man. I've got no degrees, I don't have any titles, I don't have any huge book deals or anything. I'm going on using my passion, using my heart to touch and to reach out and to add value to people's lives in terms of, listen, everybody, take a moment out of your time just to show what and learn about Falun Gong and realize that this is a beautiful, healthy practice, and to do something about it. And that's all my intention is. There's nothing else. I don't have any money, fame, fortune, and nor do I want it. It's just good work. It's just a mission that helps people.
Amen for that. I mean, look, you've probably awakened millions and millions and millions of people all around the world to this problem. And we are one people. We are one people. And, you know, we need to all join this fight together. The only thing that evil needs to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And
it was Edmund Burke said that, and Albert Einstein. Yes.
Yeah. And Superman.
Superman, exactly.
Chris, thanks for your call, buddy.
Yes, and you know what, Chris, just to share with you, if my mission is accomplished just to touch one person, regardless of millions. You know, I'm one man army here. If I can touch one person on Zach's show, who is a legend, by the way. I mean, damn, you are a serious legend.
Yeah.
Chris, I don't know about that.
You're Chris Hawkins, man. Jason and Chris and Sweta and everybody in the chat room and everyone who's watching and can go to the websites and learn the exercises. At least I got to touch you for a moment, and this is historic, and this is what I live for, and so I can, you know, it's great.
All right.
Hey, let me just throw. It wouldn't be me if I couldn't pray for everybody first.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Yeah, go ahead.
Father, bring us all together to fight this battle against our brothers and sisters who are being so damaged by evil and greed and power. And this should never happen to anybody. And you are in control. We trust you, Father. We trust you. And I just lift up the Chinese people up to you right now, that we are with you. We are with you. We are praying for you. We are fighting for you. And this will end. This will get better. And we love you.
Amen. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your call, brother.
All right. Thank you.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night. All right. Well, Mitchell,
Thanks,
I think
Chris.
undoubtedly you have touched at least one person, and hopefully, about 3,500 other people as well. Need to say thank you to, Red Pills Warhawk said, I was asking if they're doing the harvesting here as well. Seemed like the conditions are perfect for it. I mean, do you think that this is happening other places? I mean, America does have, a large hospital infrastructure that they could be doing this here. But I mean, do you think this is happening in America?
Not like what is going on in China. You have the kidney in the bathtub. I've seen Cambodia, Thailand. I mean, you have the huge pedophile rings. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein came out and exposed that, was about to expose that with, the high elites. But there's no other
his
regime.
private chef just died peacefully in his sleep about 2 weeks ago as well. That's a little convenient for them.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, but there's no other country in the world that has a legal system where the courts are involved, government agencies are involved, the military police are involved, the secret police are involved, the hospitals are all involved, everything, and it's legal, that it's a legal state to order genocide, a normalization to kill innocent and millions of innocent people. And I wanted to share something with you, but I can't find it. Here it is. There's a really good it's called Cold Genocide. It's a publication from the it's here. It's the Genocide Studies and Prevention International Journal, and it's an article that shares about how Falun Gong is distinguishable as a cold genocide. A hot genocide is where, like what happened in Rwanda with the Tutsis and the Hutus, where the Hutus just took massive machetes and killed, literally on the scene. You see, everyone's seen the movie Hotel Rwanda with John Cheadle, okay? I think that's his name. They just killed 80,000 people, hacked them to death. I mean, they would, over, 800,000 people within 10 days. Thank God the Tutsis got ammunition and fought back. But with Falun Gong, that's a hot genocide. With Falun Gong, it's distinguishable as a cold genocide because it is multidimensional. The destruction of Falun Gong practitioners is not only physical, but psychological, social, and spiritual. Subtle in terms of visibility, and it is normalized. That's the key word, normalized, ladies and gentlemen, in the society in which it takes place. So the interplay of these invisible, non-physical elements of eradication renders the cold genocide of Falun Gong insidious, potent, and very deadly. And it is also the interplay of these factors that led this genocide to be represented in genocidal studies today. So you can say, yes, there is a lot going on in America, that so many children go missing, thousands of children go missing each and every year. And where do they go? Through these sex trafficking pedophile rings, and which I've learned also from the International Tribunal of Natural Justice when I was doing a briefing there with the investigators. But nothing like this, where there is a country that holds the second largest economy, the largest military to date. You can even Google it, it's in the Google records, about 2.18 million Chinese soldiers, largest military, the largest 1.3 billion population, very technically advanced. All the Google tech companies are in bed within. The World Health Organization, the one that is supposed to be running the forefront of this of stopping this virus, is concluded. The United Nations, no other country, like I said before, has more specialized agencies in control than the communist regime. There's no other country in this world that has killed more people, decimated more life, destroyed more animals. They have the largest fur trade. I mean, people with dogs and cats. I mean, you should see what they're doing to the animals, boiling the dogs and the cats.
It's the worst.
Water. It's shocking.
Yeah.
They've got the largest fur trade, and the exotic animals, and the infrastructure, and the social credit scores. I mean,
they have a very, very little respect for life in China. My friend Neon Revolt told me that in China, if you get into a car accident and you injure someone else, you are liable for their medical care, unless that other person is killed in the commission of that accident. So you'll have people which will be hit by a car, and then the perpetrator will run them over and over again to ensure that they die so that they don't have to pay for any medical care. Let me just say thank you to Bigfoot Anon. Do you think disclosure of this as far as Planned Parenthood goes will come out on the human harvesting? EO2 Dave wants to know, Mitchell, what do you think is the first thing that needs to be done to put a stop to this? Seabass says, if the expertise makes you healthy, wouldn't they want that? Healthy organs, more money. This is an abomination. Great work. Bless you for all you do. And Hey Jude says, how can we donate to Mitch? Mitch, do you have the ability for people to donate if they want to?
I don't accept anything. This is a work that I've taken up on myself. Yes, I'm struggling. Yes, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. But thank you. The donation is from your discernment, from you listening. What I would love you guys to do is to learn about Falun Gong and the exercises and benefit, as I benefit in terms of stress relief, anxiety relief, positive state of mind, because it's all in the mental state of mind, right? The mindset, taking accountability, having support, a good support system, whether you are in business, those who have a bulletproof idea in business and that are stressed out and, are frustrated or angry and wake up in the morning depressed. The Falun Gong exercises are great for that, really, truly. And that's the donation that you could give me, to go and learn about the exercises, spread the awareness. And if there's anyone listening, have me on their shows and consider not doing business with China anymore. Because you go to Taiwan, come to Vietnam. They've got great factories in Vietnam, better than China. You've got India, you've got Taiwan, but China, stay away from the Red Dragon. So that's what I would say in terms of donations.
All right. We got our next caller on the line, Denise. Denise, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. What's your question for Mitchell?
It's not a question. When all this started erupting, this coronavirus at the beginning of the year, and the videos came out of them rounding people up and pushing them into boxes on the back of wagons. I just felt a shudder. You know, Zach, that I've travelled an awful lot in my lifetime, and mixed with various cultures, etc. And when I saw that, I thought, oh my God, they're going to kill those people, because you know that organs can't be harvested from cadavers, don't you?
Yeah.
That they're taken from people that are heavily sedated or brain dead. And I thought that they're rounding these people up, they're taking them to places, they're taking their organs piecemeal by piecemeal, keeping them alive, in other words, and taking the eyes, which isn't fatal, taking a kidney that isn't fatal. These people aren't sedated. They'll do it, they do it. And while they're doing that, these people are in agony, they're terrified. And what's the best time to get adrenochrome from somebody?
Exactly. Yeah. Mitchell, do you think that this, pandemic that we find ourselves in started in Wuhan, do you think they used that as an opportunity to perhaps expand this harvesting program? Because, it seemed like there was a lot of people who were forcibly taken from the streets. I had heard that, obviously, I'm sure that everyone has seen the sulfur dioxide gas that was pouring out from those crematoriums in a couple of different places throughout the country. Do you think that the Chinese use this as an opportunity to expand the organ harvesting?
Oh, without a doubt. I think Denise is really, she nailed it as well. That first of all, the cadavers you cannot get organs from. That's why this was a kill to order genocide continuing today. And the communist regime have announced through their propaganda machine that they've banned organ tourism. They've stopped the one-child policy, which is absolutely nonsense. It's hogwash. They've ramped up the organ harvesting genocide against particularly the Falun Gong because of the freshness of the organs. And they were defending their point of organ harvesting back a couple of years ago, saying that they only harvested 10,000 patients per year, but the numbers never added up. And plus, many of the criminals and convicts in the prison systems in China, as well as in the United States, have hepatitis. And hepatitis, as you all know, that is a disease that spreads to the livers and other organs and renders them useless. So how can you sell unclear and impure organs for massive amounts of money? For example, a heart, 130,000 to 160,000 for a heart, kidneys, 62,000, lungs, 150 to 170,000 dollars. You need the freshest and most healthiest. So that's why the Falun Gong were targeted. The Christians were targeted. The Uyghur Muslims and Tibetans were targeted because these were more people that didn't smoke or drink, lived more of a healthy lifestyle, a vegetarian lifestyle. And so particularly the Falun Gong, the health efficacy of just the Qigong exercises alone were just extraordinary. And so, yes, to answer your question, they have ramped up more so than ever before. And on the article from the Epoch Times, they were sharing about how the lung transplants, because the rich Chinese officials have been infected, and there's such a huge liver cancer rate in China. I think it's 40 to 50% of the world's population.
Wow.
The most effective treatment is transplantation. Yeah, over half the world's new liver cancer patients, about 350,000 cases a year, are in China. So for the 8 million end-stage liver patients, now included the infective CV19 cancer patients and liver patients and infected Chinese communist officials, the most effective treatment is transplantation. So yeah, they've ramped up huge numbers.
All right, Denise, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, friend.
God bless.
Denise is my UK correspondent. She's my go-to for information on the UK. Liberty Rider 17 said, awareness is light. Thank you, Mitchell Gerber. You are a saint, and Red Pill 78, our watchful shepherd. California is under siege by the China CCP. Terrible how they have infiltrated the U.S. And Jordan Brown says these crimes against humanity might not just include the deep state, but also China. I think that they are one and the same. Personally, I believe that China is a major portion of the deep state. I mean, they've had stated goals for a long time to attempt to infiltrate not just the United States, but also other countries throughout the West. We've talked about this recently. There are large-scale programs of infiltrating through the educational system, infiltrating into business and industry, infiltrating into the government by turning people and getting information about intelligence matters. Also, the media and film. I mean, they have had a tremendous push to buy into the Hollywood film industry, and also, I'm sure, to get a foothold into the news that the fake news, basically. But we've got our next caller on the line, TechnoAxe. What's up, brother? How you been?
I've been doing good. I've been out and about outside a lot because the president said so.
That's right. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Let's get it in there. What's your question for Mitchell?
Hey, obviously a big part of the solution to this problem is getting the word out and getting the motivation to the citizens of China. And we know that before this whole COVID thing went down, that Hong Kong was pretty much, well, at least a big portion of their citizens were up in arms and protesting. But do you see any maybe signs that maybe the mainland is kind of catching on as well as Hong Kong?
Absolutely, Techno. The Tradin Movement is a movement quitting the Chinese Communist Party. I don't know, Zach, if you can bring that up.
Is this what those protests were about? Because there were protests in Wuhan as well, just before the outbreak began.
Very similar. Between 80 to 100,000 Chinese people are protesting and quitting the Chinese Communist Party. If you put up the website, I don't know if you can, but it's TUI.
Global Tradin Center?
That's it. Global Quitting Chinese Communist Party Service Center. Over 354 million Chinese people have quit, or the affiliate association. So Techno, yeah, you were right. There's a great document. There's a great video from the chair of the Global Service Center from Rong Yi, and it's to educate people about the destructive character of communism, to assist all Chinese people worldwide to renounce the Chinese Communist Party and its affiliate organizations, and to investigate and document the atrocities of communism that has been perpetrated against humanity. So yeah, there's a huge movement, Techno, in China, just like there were in Hong Kong, to expose this evil, and I hope that it commences even more so, and it will, because the communist regime is on its deathbed right now, and it's about to completely topple over. And I just wanted to mention one more thing.
Go ahead.
There's a great documentary, as I said, about the 9 commentaries, but in continuation of that, it's called "How the Spectre of Communism is Ruling Our World." And it's from the editorial team of the 9 commentaries on the Communist Party. And it basically, having researched the communist movement since the 1980s, the left-wing organizations have made the United States their primary target for infiltration and subversion. So the fields of American politics, education, media, and business have increasingly shifted to the left under the influence of well-placed individuals. And even as people around the globe cheered the triumph of the free world after the Cold War, communism was stealthily taking over the public institutions of Western society in preparation for the final struggle. And this is our final struggle. So, yeah, trying to take away the guns, the Patriot movement being demonized as, so-called terrorist and white supremacists, and the N-word, not, from Germany.
Right.
And political correctness. And I remember a time I'm 20 to 40 years old. I came to Atlanta, Georgia, 1995, guys, when the 1 year before the Olympic Games. And I remember the loudmouth American mentality that they could speak mind. It totally changed by the early 2000s. And now, I mean, to say anything about to wear Make America Great Again hat, or to say anything patriotic, or even fly the great American flag, which so many American patriots died to protect, is burned by the radical Antifa terrorists, which I call them.
Yep.
And the Pledge of Allegiance, you can't even say the Pledge of Allegiance in the school anymore, is disgraceful, and that needs to really, really change.
Absolutely. Well, Techno, thanks for your call, buddy. We got 5 minutes left. I want to get at least one more in.
All right.
Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Okay, and I need to say thank you to Crystal Lynn. She said, thanks for all you do. I know all of the hard work that goes into your day. You are appreciated. Support the alt media chat. Thank you very much, Crystal. I appreciate you being here. And then Ija Shua says, Falun Gong is the key to understanding how to destroy the wicked cabal that aims to enslave us. Please research Mr. Li Hongji's interview with Time Magazine. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Okay, excellent. Let's go to one of our last callers, and then I want to make sure that we give Mitchell the final word. Katie, Love by the Moon, is going to be coming in here in just a second. Mitchell, I had asked earlier if you had anything specific coming up. I mean, are you working on any big projects, or are you just trying to build awareness and talk to people here through platforms like this?
Platforms like this, and I see the tide is shifting, and I actually have a good friend of mine who has got working with Project Veritas.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
Trying to get a team on the ground here, but the difficult thing is we're trying to get into the hospitals in China to take actual organ harvesting, extracting video, as well as Blaze TV and other media agencies. But like I said, if there's anybody in the media who's listening, and your network of people, of podcasts, friends, Zach, who want me on, I would love to come. I don't know if we have time to play that last bit of Anastasia Lin, the Miss World Canada.
Yeah, we'll do it after we talk to Katie. Katie, are you there?
Wonderful.
I am. I'm here.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks for calling. What's your question for Mitchell?
Well, I guess I was kind of wondering, when everybody was going through all their protests, say Hong Kong, China, wherever, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Set aside, whether anybody believes in Q or not, because I don't want anybody to have like a hairy canary. When they were waving the American flag all over Asia, do you think it's possible they were sending kind of like a calm to the United States, as in like help us, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it, Katie. Yes. Singing "Oh Say Can You See," and it brought almost a tear to my eye, because those Hong Kong protesters are such incredibly courageous, barricading themselves in their colleges. I mean, these are young, innocent people who have been invaded by a Chinese communist regime. And yes, by flying the American flags and singing the American anthem and pledging the allegiance, it was just quite remarkable. But what was actually very disgusting was when I saw LeBron James, and don't get me wrong, an amazing all-star NBA legend, okay, and rest in peace Kobe Bryant. I mean, these guys were just legends, as you can tell. But I think it was the manager of the Houston Rockets, or San Antonio Spurs, I believe, came out and said, "United we stand," on his Twitter, and then had to retract the statements and say, we're not going to go in there. And then LeBron James and others were asked, the superstars in the NBA, what do you think? And they looked dumbfounded, as if they were actually programmed to say, we don't have anything to do with this. Reason being, the NBA has a huge market share, contractual obligation to China and the communist regime. So I thought that was pretty disgraceful. But when I saw the Hong Kong protesters waving the American flags, yeah, like you said, Katie, that was reaching out and saying, come on, see what you have, appreciate what Americans have. So anyway.
Yeah, we need to work at exporting that and helping out people in areas such as China, places that can use the support, because it's terrible to me to imagine that in today's age that this is still going on. Katie, thank you for your call. I appreciate you calling in.
Oh, thank you. Have a great night, you guys, and thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. All right. So, Mitchell, set up this last clip for us with Anastasia. Hold on. Let me get it pulled up here.
Anastasia. Yeah, Anastasia Lin. What a courageous ambassador. Gorgeous woman. And she was Miss World Canada 2015 and 16, I believe.
Okay.
And she was going to go participate in the Miss World pageant in 2018 or 17 and 18, forgive me for the dates, but anyway, and she was barred from China. Her visa was denied as she was going in from Hong Kong, and she used this opportunity to expose the Chinese Communist Party even further. She practices Falun Gong. Her father is a Falun Gong practitioner, and her father has been threatened and abused by the Chinese Communist Party. She's been threatened, and there's a really good clip which I'm about to show you of Anastasia Lin, as well as her documentary, A Badass Beauty Queen. And so for all the ladies out there, check this out. I mean, it's a phenomenal trailer and documentary, Badass Beauty Queen. This one is not the one I'm showing you. This is just the one that shared about her movie and her thoughts about China, and From the Bleeding Edge, her movie as well, that can be also viewed. But that's Miss World Anastasia Lin.
All right, let's check it out.
There are people in the world that try to replace kindness and compassion in our hearts with hatred and fear, be it suicide bombing or a government's action to suppress people's belief. Their goal is clear: to control us by fear. I wanted to compete for the Miss World title because I want to inspire people to care about each other again, to have kindness and compassion back in the society. I want to speak up for those who can't speak up for themselves. They shouldn't be left victimized, silenced, in the corner of the world where no one hears them. China used to be a land that's so rich in spiritual practices. We had Taoism, Buddhism, all kinds of different beliefs that flourished on our land. But right now, it's being reduced to political slogans. People live under fear throughout their lives without even knowing that they do have a right to speak up for themselves. In the film The Bleeding Edge, my character is a victim of human rights abuse in China. She has been through tons of torture, but she still tries so hard to stay true to herself And that's why it is so precious to get to know these people, the real people behind these stories. Hope is the only thing that's way more powerful than fear.
我不能转化，因为法轮大法好。
The persecution has been going on for the past 16 years, but the whole world is silent about it. That's why I try so hard to get my voice out there, not just for them, for everyone. These abuses will touch our freedom to speak, to think, to defend our own convictions.
Mr. Chairman, I hope that together we can gain Chinese people a voice. I hope this can happen soon. For myself, this would give me back a father, but for many others, it would save their lives. Thank you very much.
You know, I saw somebody said they couldn't believe that I couldn't believe it. Just because I know evil exists in this world doesn't mean I'm not shocked when confronted with it. I mean, perhaps this is more shocking to me because it's not one of the traditional atrocities that I've been researching for the last couple of decades. You know, I mean, this is only something that's, you know, come on my radar in perhaps the last 10 years, maybe less. Marlis, where we go one, we go all. Thank you for that. And Denise said, China is buying up businesses, ports, land, property, etc. Can all of this be confiscated legally and China blocked from doing this? You know, President Trump has already made some moves to reverse some of the contracts that were put into place before the last administration left office, specifically with regard to ports. You know, it would not be unprecedented if America decided to nationalize some Chinese holdings, perhaps some Chinese businesses here. I mean, they are considered to be an existential threat to our way of life and to, you know, freedom across the globe. Do you think that's a possibility, Mitchell? Do you think that America might actually learn how disgusting and horrible this is and move to nationalize Chinese property here in America?
I believe so. I think huge confiscations and retribution is coming, and I think also there's a lot of indictments from very high-ranking treasonous U.S. officials. We don't have to mention names, but the Clinton Foundation. But,
one can only hope.
One will only hope. You know, I mean, come on. You know, these kind of people and the deep state, as you said. Have been really complicit with the Chinese Communist Party, and they will be brought to justice. Huawei
yep.
also found colluding and using this horrible, dangerous 5G technology, which is not even based for human beings, it's based for 5G. And I think Mr. Parser at the AI organization, when you had him on his show, shared that completely with you and went into detail with you about that. So yes, you're going to see a huge retribution and coming to light these perpetrators in all different countries that have done evil, especially with the Rockefellers, Henry Kissinger, the Wall Street bankers, the hedge fund managers, the corporate think tanks that have made a fortune off the slave state of China and have known for years about the Falun Gong and this new world order, so to speak. They're all going to be brought to justice.
All right,
because,
excellent.
Yeah.
Need to say thank you to Jersey Linda. When I was a little girl, I had the Hong Kong flu and viral pneumonia. Does that make me immune or more susceptible? I don't know. I don't even know what the Hong Kong flu is. I mean, I've heard people say it, but it's nothing that I know about. Are you aware of it at all?
I don't know.
No.
I just know that if you practice the Falun Gong exercises, there have been testimonies that people have become immune from the virus because of this. I know I have. I was having some symptoms and I practiced the Falun Gong exercises and I immediately felt much better. So these kind of practices, but yet a mental state of mind, a good heart, and a solid outcome, we'll get through this. And so, yeah.
I'd also want to say there's some recent studies coming out showing that people who partake in nicotine are also less likely to come down with it, and they recover quicker when they're not. Not medical advice, but, you know, maybe that's part of the reason why I have remained healthy. I did get some symptoms myself. I know when we first met, you were just starting to get over it. I had an incredible sore throat, worst sore throat I've ever had in my life, and after that happened, there was a couple of people who said, hey, you know, that's one of the very first symptoms that you look for. Chris Hawkins says, we know who you are, RP. We appreciate and love you very much. And now we know Mitchell and appreciate and love you very much. Daily prayers for Mitchell and his sacrifice for our Chinese brothers and sisters. Mitchell, thank you so much for coming here tonight. I just want to let you know, and I'll say it publicly, you're welcome back on the show anytime. I had a great time talking with you. I mean, what do you want to leave the audience with?
I want to leave the audience with, please look at all the websites, look at all the documentaries. You can follow me on Twitter. I always usually, what I'm doing right now is I'm actually making some videos, 2-minute videos, and I'm sending it out to all like Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, Rachel Maddow, because I don't care whether you're left or right media.
Sure.
I just want to get the word out. But I just think that I'll leave, learn the exercises of Falun Gong. They're tremendous for the body. If there's anyone out there, Zach, that you know, as I said, I can't repeat it. I'm sorry, forgive me for repeating it so often, but if there's anyone in your network that have podcasts or anyone else that wants to reach out to me, I'm always available. And I just think there's a great quote from Kingdom of Heaven. There's 2 quotes from Albert Einstein and Kingdom of Heaven. One is, be without fear in the face of your enemies. Be brave and upright, that God may love thee. Spread the truth and speak the truth, even if it leads to your death. Safeguard the helpless and try to do no wrong. This is your oath. And there's one more from Albert Einstein, which is very similar to Edmund Burke. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not sure if I can find it, but it's basically, the world is not destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who sit back and absolutely do nothing about the atrocities that are in this world. So every single person in this chat room that are listening, that are going to download the archive, that are going to subscribe and share this video, these are the people that are going to lead this world to a brighter future. You are the souls, you are the people, you are the human beings that are really only hope for humanity. Truly, because everyone that is looking into my eyes right now, I see you for who you are. You can feel my sincerity. You can feel the energetic vibration through this computer, even though it's a technology machine. We are connected, and we are one, and we are people, and we will survive whatever is coming and whatever obstacles there are in this world, because we believe in each other, we believe in the higher power, and we believe in humanity for a brighter day. And that's all I want to say, Zach. And thank God for you and your beautiful program, and God bless you. And thank you for allowing me to share about the Falun Gong, the organ harvesting, and exposing this evil Chinese Communist Party for what it is. And I hope to look forward to seeing you once more again.
Well, Mitchell, I can guarantee you will be back, and with any amount of luck or divinity, maybe we can go ahead and put an end to this. Trophy Truck said, I thoroughly enjoyed the show, and I will be sharing the info. Well done, and thank you both. You guys, we've got 3,200 people still here, 2,600 likes. Please consider leaving a like and sharing this broadcast before you leave. The information is incredibly important, and I want to make sure that President Trump has this situation on his radar, because if he's not aware of it, he needs to be aware of it. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you to all the mods. Thank you to everybody who chatted and joined in. Thank you for everybody who called. And most of all, Mitchell, thank you very much for joining us and bringing us the information. All right, everyone. Thanks again for being here, and good luck and God bless. We will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for Comfy Sunday. Methods and I have Cora Nemec joining us for a full 2 hours, and I think you're really going to want to join this and be a part of the conversation. All right, everybody. Good luck and God bless.
Thanks, Zach.